What the hell? Why do you do that? Of course, as soon as I am set to get it live, the dog goes and walks on the cord and plugs the sound setup.
It does sound just a little bit different now.
Alrighty, I think we're good.
All right.
As soon as we go live, the dog decides to mess it all up by stepping on the cords.
Durga's Law.
Gosh, Durga. All right, intro song. I didn't really plan the intro. I just thought it would be cool for AM radio sound to have a little bit of welcome to Toxic Airwaves. I'm stoked tonight. I'm fired up. How you doing, Skeef?
I'm doing great. Fired up too.
Yeah.
Coming to you from the land of liberty LARPing called Texas.
Gosh. Been working on some t-shirts, making fun of Texas LARPers.
Texas LARPs on Liberty. These motherfuckers had a cool fort like 150 years ago, and now they think they're awesome.
Remember the Alamo. That was a story I read a lot about as a kid and really enjoyed.
Yeah.
It is kind of a cool story, that like final stand. Is that David Booney that fought there?
Yeah, Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett. I think Sam Houston was there. If he wasn't there, he's definitely a big guy in kind of Texas war history for sure.
I'm pretty sure Sam Houston was the one that swooped in afterwards and got the revenge.
I think that's right.
Texan Army.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But yeah, since then it's been downhill. So what's going on in Texas?
Went to BitDevs on Thursday. That was fun. Got to see lots of awesome Bitcoiners in Austin this weekend. And then I am at a relative's house in Texas for a few days before I head up to Big Block Boom.
Nice. Yeah, the Bit Block Boom looks pretty solid. Surfer Jim is going to be speaking, which I thought was good.
Should be fun. Anybody at BitBlock Boom, come out to Parking Lot Con, which is what I'm hosting, which is smoking weed out in the parking lot.
That's dope. That sounds like a good time. So yeah, we got some stuff going on in the world. FDA came through, approved the jab.
Paving the way for the passports.
That was pretty predictable.
Yeah.
Were you surprised at all?
Not terribly surprised. Is that dog loud? There's a dog next door that's barking. Can you hear that?
Yeah, it's a little bit loud.
Okay, I can go inside. I'll see if it shuts the fuck up. Yeah. No, I wasn't. I figured they would do FDA approval at some point, and I don't know. I've just assumed for a little while now that I just won't be able to fly before too long, and then just kind of go from there. Road trip, I guess.
Yeah, I just bought my ticket yesterday to Bitcoin Omaha to fly out there, and I think it'll take a little bit of time for them to push it through, but I wouldn't be surprised if the airlines get a hard on and try and roll it out pretty quick. But yeah, that's going to be a reality.
Yeah.
I don't know. I bought my car specifically for road trips, so I guess I get to put it into use going forward in the future. But it's going to be interesting to see like how draconian they take this, as if they're going to be setting up border checkpoints and stuff. I wouldn't put it too far past them to do something.
Yeah, even as pessimistic as I am on some of this stuff, I have a really hard time believing that they're gonna. I mean, they can restrict air travel, but the idea that, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see states like California limiting who comes in, but I mean, why would you want to go there anyway? Other than Orange County. Orange County is awesome. Gazala, if you're listening.
Yeah. But I don't know. How many Border Patrol checkpoints have you been through?
There was just one on the way from Arizona to Texas. So there's the one just along I-10.
Yeah, I just bring that up because we already have the checkpoints like set up, and it's totally possible for them to roll it out again. And I think like the scary thing is the general population seems to be either ambivalent or supportive of it. So do you have the chat pulled up?
That's what I was just pulling up. I've got YouTube pulled up now so I can see the comments.
Nice.
Straight Russell Brand over here.
Don Reddy, parking lot con is where we find out where Satoshi came from.
That's right. Satoshi's an interdimensional alien. Spoiler alert.
I was looking for like a good sound for my soundboard to play some like spooky alien music, but I didn't find one in time, unfortunately. Yeah, so Don, the way the Border Patrol works is that they set up somewhere like 40 to 60 miles away from the border, just on the highways. And so like when I go down to southern Arizona, like every single road has a Border Patrol checkpoint that I have to get through. And that's how they do it. And so I think like in some states it's probably easier to do than others. Like going from Arizona to California, it'd probably be pretty easy to set up a few checkpoints, because there's only a few highways. But I'm sure in like more densely populated areas, doing something like that would be a little bit more difficult. But yeah, it's just my thinking.
Yeah. Well, and squeezing people's income, that's the main way that I see this happening is, I mean, it's trivial for them to tie federal benefits to, to get in the jab, and then employer mandates, like working at a place that those are the big ways I see them like really pushing people towards it. Like I have some friends who are at places that have said, November 1, December 1, either get the jab or be fired. And that's definitely being rolled out by, corporations doing the government's dirty work, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just disgusting. I think was it Don that pointed out to us in the Telegram that the new FDA appointee was the one that helped push the opiate crisis and spread a lot of misinformation on that.
Yeah.
And
no, I was just going to say, I'm just long past being surprised by how corrupt these motherfuckers are.
And the ATF, did he ever get put into office or appointed?
That I don't know. I saw that they were trying to change some of the rules around like 80% lowers and things like that. And then they recently forced everyone to basically sell out of 7.62 by 39 rounds because they said they weren't going to allow those imports from Russia anymore, which is where a lot of the budget, like Wolf and all those companies those are Russian companies, or at least it comes from Russia. So overnight, I went from being able to buy as much AK ammo as I wanted for $320 a case to barely being able to find it.
Yeah, I shoot that ammo too, so that kind of pisses me off. They hate it when I go to the range and I have steel cases, but I don't care. I figure
Yeah.
in my AR, it has a chrome barrel, so it doesn't really matter what I shoot through it, in my opinion. People might say I'm a moron for that, but I clean it. So, but yeah, I mean, thank God for 3D printed guns. We just need to come up with like 3D printed Vax passports or something.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to check out the Mises Institute event that they had on, might have been yesterday or the day before?
No, I didn't see what kind of event was it.
I don't know. It was just kind of like a general discussion. I think they had some pretty solid libertarian people speaking. Pretty sure Jeff Deist, who was Ron Paul's chief of staff, spoke. I forgot all their names. Ryan McMacken was really good. But essentially they were just discussing this COVID insanity. And I think one point that I took away from the event that I thought was really good is that we can't argue on merit of whether these measures are effective or not. Like with the lockdowns, like they're obviously not effective, but that's such a bad argument to have because it justifies them in the future of like, well, if we do have, disease that comes through that is actually deadly to the general population, then their lockdowns are warranted. But, the argument I think we need to be having on this is that under any circumstances, none of this shit is warranted. And I thought that was pretty good.
That's what I think even agreeing to have the discussion is a terrible mistake, in my opinion. It's like the firearm example is simple. If somebody asks you the question, what right do you have to own whatever? To me, the correct response is go fuck yourself. I don't even recognize your right to ask that question. It's like, I'm not even going to pretend like you have a legitimate perspective on this. And it's like a similar thing. It's like, oh, you're not vaccinated. What right do you have to not? Just go fuck yourself. It's my body. I don't want it. I don't trust Bill Gates. If you do, that's your problem. But
yeah, I think that's all.
That's what I had this conversation earlier today with who I'm staying with. It's just, it's like there's so many people who are, conservatives, like even Trump supporters who are getting the vaccine and pushing it and not associating with people who don't get the vaccine. And I just I want to slap these people and to have them read history and say, do you realize the people pushing this would put you in a cattle car if they could, and they would send you straight to a concentration camp. If they could get away with it, they would. And those are the people that you're submitting to and listening to on this bullshit. Yeah. I don't get it. And it's like that, there's going to be so much of that in the Bitcoin world of people saying, oh, it's just a little reporting requirement. I just need to register my addresses. I just need to, use custodians that they approve. It's just like all this stuff, like 1 ounce of compliance, in my opinion, is just completely immoral and terrible, terrible strategy.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've got a Jordan Peterson quote. I think it's about 2 minutes long, queued up for this.
Very good job of documenting how an ordinary person transforms into a Nazi murderer. And I had to read that. I said, but don't you compartmentalize it. This is about you, right? This isn't about someone else. When you read history, you think, well, that's about someone else. It's like, unless maybe you're a victim and you identify with the victims. It's a very rare person who reads history and identifies with the perpetrators. But unless you read history and identify with the perpetrators, then you don't understand history at all. And so who wants to understand that? And I get my students, I said, look, I've told them this for 30 years. Here's something you have to understand. If you were in Nazi Germany, the statistical probability is overwhelming that you would have been a perpetrator, right? You think you would have rescued Anne Frank. It's like, think again. Those people are very, 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 very rare. They put their lives on the line to do that. They put their families' lives on the line to do that. You think you're one of those people? Really? It's like that. All that means is that you know nothing. You know nothing about yourself. You know nothing about people. You know nothing about politics or economics or history. It's a harsh lesson. But
yeah.
And that's what, that's what a lot of people, they think they would have been the one rescuing Anne Frank, and they're, ready to turn in their neighbor for not getting vaccinated or not. I don't know. It's like, we're not in 1930s Germany yet, but if you can't draw a connection from where we are to that, I just don't think you're paying attention.
Yeah, and I think it's not even just the people that are actively going out there and snitching on each other. It's the people that are sitting by apathetically and not saying anything or doing anything that are the most problematic, because that's what allows for this to happen. And you're just as bad. I mean, they teach you this. They taught us this in public school as a kid, of like the bystander effect. If you see a kid getting bullied and you do nothing, then you're complicit in it. And I think that's the case here, which is funny that they teach you that in school, but they also beat into you to be the bystander, to be the follower, and just allow this to happen. Just watch your neighbors just get decimated. And I think that's complete horseshit and really pisses me off.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I don't know, it'll be really interesting to see how, like, what these kind of attacks look like on Bitcoiners at 500K Bitcoin, at $1 million Bitcoin, at $10 million Bitcoin, at $100 million Bitcoin. Like these, I mean, like that's something I've been thinking about a lot this week, especially. It's like, if we think it's hard being against the vaccine, that's going to be nothing compared to being a Bitcoiner when you're getting rich as fuck and everyone else is starving. I mean, it's and not, I don't know about starving, but I mean, just everybody's going to be reaping the terrible effects of the fiat system, and everybody without Bitcoin is going to be totally fucked. And I think it probably gets pretty ugly in the short to medium term, and there's going to be a lot of importance on being able to be off the grid and fly under the radar. And like, I expect there'll be years at a time where you wouldn't want to mention that you own any amount of Bitcoin. Yeah. Don says no, they will be starving. Yeah, a lot of them probably will, unfortunately. I mean, I'll be the first one. I'll try to save as many as I can, but nobody can save everybody.
I mean, this is a really serious issue, like looking at the food supply chains and what's happening right now in general. Like Marty was tweeting about, you can't furnish a house in a reasonable manner. And, that was my experience too, ordering a couch. But I mean, California is passing these laws that is going to affect like pork distribution. And, this is something that they want to do, is like make people intolerant to eat meat and make it as difficult to produce meat as possible. And they're going after the supply chains. And, while they're doing that, they're locking things down and just fucking everything up and printing loads of money. So like, food should be a serious concern for average people right now. And like, that self-sustainability is huge. I think these circular economies, I think they will happen. I'm bullish on them happening, but I also think, preemptively, it's something we need to be focusing on as, in our individual lives, is like, if the grocery store gets looted or there's some crazy shit that happens and there's not food on the shelves, like how do we eat? And it's not like a tinfoil hat theory. It should be like a basic thing on people's minds for sure.
Yeah. And it's just like, how, I don't know. I mean, how long has Bitcoin Twitter been predicting basically everything that happened during COVID? It's like, nobody knew they were going to like literally reenact V for Vendetta, but everybody knew, okay, there's going to be some gigantic fuckery as we come to the end of this bull market, because it's like the S&P doesn't go up and to the right forever. And it's like, everything's falling apart. They're going to have to print a fuck ton of money. And it's like, really the only question left on Bitcoin Twitter was, what are the specific details of how exactly this is going to play out? Like, what are my if you asked me 2018, my guess was another big terrorist attack and a gigantic another war in the Middle East, like with Iran or something like that. That was my best guess for what they were going to use to to get this kind of control of resources and control of society that they're after. I did not guess it was going to be a, manufactured virus, but turns out that's how they ended up doing it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense in hindsight because of the vaccine that they're, pushing associated with it.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Catherine Austin Fitts?
I have not.
I think she was in the George Bush administration. I forgot what her position was, but she does a lot of discussion on this. She's one of those people that hates digital currencies in general.
Okay.
And so in my opinion, it feels like she lacks a lot of solution, but I think she has a lot of insight to this thing. And she, kind of compared what's happening with the virus and the vaccines right now to Microsoft, where they're rolling out these, system updates and security patches on a consistent basis, that they're going to, do that with the vaccine. They might intentionally release these viruses. And I just, I guess they don't even need to do that, because they can just scare the shit out of people in the news to get them to line up and get it. But I just saw that headline about COVID-22 coming out, and that was the first thing that, popped in my head. It was like, okay, great. We've got some new thing, and they're just trying this with the Delta variant. But I mean, the way that they're rolling this out with the idea of booster shots periodically, it seems like that's essentially what they're doing. They're just going to update your immune system.
Yeah. And I don't know, like that's something like a conversation I want to have with a lot more Bitcoiners, is like thinking about and talking through, how do we use this as a practice run for what's almost definitely coming, like those attacks on people who own Bitcoin, who at some point will be the only people with any level of success in society. And that's going to create a ton of animosity and hatred and jealousy and anger, all these kinds of awful things. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a real great answer for it, but that's something I've been thinking about, is like, what can we learn from what's going on now to be better prepared for that.
Yeah, I'm kind of bullish on that front, because I think that people are going to be adopting Bitcoin in kind of a large scale here pretty soon. And I think we're seeing it, like what happened in Nigeria is pretty wild with the remittance system. And I think, there'll be regions that are richer as a result of it, but I don't think it's going to be as clearly cut divided. I mean, maybe it'll be like there's people with lots of Bitcoin that are going to be the new, billionaires, trillionaires. And there might be some animosity there, but I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Gosh, Bill Gates drinks human feces water. So I learned.
I saw that picture.
I learned, and I didn't fact check this, but I did an interview with some guys in Omaha that are organizing the Omaha conference. But they were saying that like 90% of Warren Buffett's money is going to go to the Gates Foundation when he dies.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that high, but I knew it was a big number.
Yeah, fuck Warren Buffett.
Yeah,
that guy's a tool. Well, speaking of tools, Peter McCuckbuck is on my shit list now.
Yeah, that's a good segue. I did listen to that Jason Williams and American Huddle that episode. It was weird. Like, I don't know. I said this in the chat. Like, I don't know. It's just like where they get the idea that most people are trying to get Lambos. That doesn't make any sense to me, because or at least unless they know a bunch of people that I don't know, because that doesn't resonate with anyone that I've met through Bitcoin. Like, not a single person.
Yeah, it sounds more like shitcoin Twitter to me.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to the episode.
It was basically, and it's like I would find plenty of stuff to disagree with Jason Williams on, but I don't hate him. Like, I haven't found a reason to have a big issue with him, but I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it was just weird. I guess I just expected a lot more out of it because the three of them have been in the Bitcoin space for a very long time. And I don't know. Like I don't know. I couldn't get to why exactly they were pushing that narrative because it didn't resonate with anything that I'd experienced. Pedrovic status. That's right. Lurk.
Yeah. I mean, he started like chilling this idea, like he's done it in the past, not as overtly, but the idea that the Bitcoin toxicity in the space is necessarily a bad thing. I think that, you know, you kind of have to differentiate people just being assholes, like going out and like tearing people down with like no substance, just like mudslinging and, you know, not bullshit, which is what I kind of look like Bitcoin toxicity. And you know, he spews a lot of bullshit periodically. And at this point, arguing for the state's necessity and, you know, being on the side is unexcusable in any.
Yeah.
I think it's just so terrible. Like, I mean, if you have any semblance of awareness of what's happening in the world, like, and you're arguing for, you know, lockdowns and you're arguing for vaccine mandates, and not necessarily he was arguing for the vaccine mandates, but he did say in the past that, you know, lockdowns seem necessary. But if you're gonna like champion the state in the awful things that they've done, you know, all throughout history, but especially in the past year, it's just complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah. Lurk brought up a really good point in the chat. Williams comparing Breedlove to Mallers was a crime. And that I 100% agree with. Like I don't, to me, you know, and it was very common how they portrayed Breedlove, which is that it's like he was this darling that everybody loved. And then one day everything changed. And that's not true at all. Like I've never been like, he's always seemed a little slimy to me. And I'm not saying this in 2020 hindsight, because lots and lots of other people saw the exact same thing. And I mean, he was a shitcoin trading hedge fund guy in 2017. And it's like my best guess based on what he's done since then is that he's always been doing that. I mean, he did that podcast with Vallis back in May, where he was making the point that, you know, that it's like, that like if it's the rational thing to trade shitcoins, and then Eric Kaysen and John Vallis had to beat him over the head with the moral case for why. It's like, this isn't about getting rich and buying Lambos, you know, like what they were talking about. Like this is about ending human slavery once and for all. And the fact, I mean, and Eric Kaysen obviously did an amazing job because he's just fucking incredible in basically every way I know of. And, you know, it was just nuts that, oh, Don said, Skeet, didn't you call him out analysis? But yeah, that like May, back when it happened, I was like, I made that clip. I shared it in different places, and it just is like, this guy is obviously shitcoining. And like I said, that's not foresight. Tons and tons of other people saw the exact same thing. And so anyway, all that long-winded way to say them, you know, making it seem like everything was amazing, and then one day it changed because of one BitClout tweet, I thought was totally disingenuous and not at all accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the stakes are pretty high here. And I think that's what a lot of these people forget. And it seems like Peter doesn't really understand what's going on in regards to this. Is like, you said, it's like, it's about ending human slavery. And that's not even like a hyperbolic statement in the slightest. Like, our relationship with the state right now is one of slavery. And you see it in the things that they do and the way that they behave and the way that they treat people. They just treat people like they're dog shit and they can do whatever they want, you know, and they do these things like they go and just bomb the shit out of some country in the Middle East, you know, and they do it without any sort of repercussions. It's just like watching George Bush get worshipped by mainstream media is just awful, you know, and they do that like in comparison to Trump. But I mean, these people are all war criminals and they're all awful. And that's what we're trying to impact, is like, we're trying to eliminate their source of power. And welcome to the show, Zorn 101. Good to have you. But yeah, it's
Join spaces if you want to call in, Zorn. Tell us if we're great or terrible or somewhere in between.
Yeah. Well, that being said, Bitcoin chugs on. Yeah, Pedro makes like 500K a month. He can't keep up with the world.
That's got to be like gross income for his podcast, right? I mean, I know he does well for himself income wise. I doubt he keeps much of it because he's not very smart, but like 500, it can't be 500K profit. Like, there's no way that guy profits 6 million a year. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what podcasts make.
Yeah, I don't really know. I could probably make an assumption based on his sponsors and how many downloads he gets. I guess I don't know how to find how many downloads he gets, but they typically will pay.
Like you said yours was only 2.5 million a year, right?
I don't make shit.
I know.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of sponsorship.
Yeah.
I might allow somebody to sponsor me if it was the case of like they were a business that was like fighting restrictions, or it would have to be like a very, very specific business. But like if BlockFi or Coinbase or Gemini or any of those guys like reached out to me, I would tell them to go pound sand.
Yeah.
Like Viva Coffee.
My primary condition is that they do have to be the number one place to find your future ex-wife in Southern Arizona, which is why we're very, very thankful for our Dirtbag sponsor here, Dirtbag's Bar in Tucson. It's worth the trip, no matter where you live. Come and visit.
I did find a show I really like this week. It's called The System Is Down, and it's a libertarian anarchist show. So it's not Bitcoin. I've been looking for content outside of Bitcoin to consume, but they did have a sponsor that really cracked me up. It was like a company that like sells you. It was like an online smoke shop, pretty much, where you could like get kratom and stuff like that, and that kind of cracked me up that was their sponsor. But yeah, I don't know. It is interesting that Ben Prentice is, I really, really like him. I think he's solid.
Yes.
He's producing what Bitcoin did. I wonder what his take on it is.
Yeah, I know a lot of people think Peter might be a spook. That, I don't know, maybe I'm naive. That seems pretty unlikely to me. Like, my guess is he's just not terribly intelligent. I posted Clancy's thread in the Telegram group, and at one point she made that I thought was super, super good was like basically that he has like essentially an unchangeable high time preference fiat brain. That's just how he thinks. Short term, easy, all about me, just doesn't have the mindset to really understand what's going on with Bitcoin. And she's like, the stuff that they're trying to explain to him is like explaining existentialism to ants, was her example. And I think that's pretty accurate. And that, he's, at the end of the day, like he's just not somebody who, in my opinion, he would obviously disagree, which is fine, but in my opinion, actually understands what's going on or what's being accomplished.
That might be the case. That was a really, really good thread that she put up. I think what he's done is he's created a brand for himself that he's kind of married to as well, where he plays the stupid guy. Like he says all the time that he is a what do you call it? Like a middle of the road centrist, trying to take that road. And it's like there's nothing centrist about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a very radical thing, and if you're a Bitcoiner, you're essentially giving a big middle finger to the state, unless you're just, buying it on Robinhood or something like that, or like buying it in your retirement portfolio. But then you're not a Bitcoiner. But man, that's pretty harsh, Lurk. I wouldn't go that far. You're muted.
I was still muted. Lurk says he's the Jeffrey Epstein of Bitcoin Twitter. Yeah. You should call into Spaces and tell us more about that. I'd be interested.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Yeah, for like all his faults, I don't think Peter's a pedo.
Peter's the Piers Morgan of Bitcoin. That's what I would call him.
Yeah. Zorn says people do not like that Bitcoin is FU money. Yeah, they don't like that how much power it gives individuals to be able to completely disregard and ignore them, which makes them feel irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah, this is something that so I went to a really interesting last Tuesday. I went to the local Libertarian Party meeting, and it was pretty interesting. It was like they're gearing up for war with the state, and it was actually kind of exciting to be in because they brought in like doctors and nurses to talk about the county's vaccine mandate on Tucson City employees. And it's sounding like there's going to be a lot of people that are going to refuse, and what could potentially happen is EMS collapses as a result of it. Because I mean, if you have like Tucson Fire and Tucson Police is really understaffed because they like to spend their money on stupid shit. But if you have like 15% of either force not working anymore or getting fired or quitting, then the entire thing collapses and it gets, really, really interesting. And these people, are really, really ready for war, but, they're lacking that economic power and the fuck you money, which I think is like the biggest piece missing, which was kind of, sad. And then there was a guy that got up there and started, shilling his shit coin and talking about direct democracy via the blockchain, which I think is like the stupidest thing ever. Especially in the context of something like that. You got to be a fucking moron in the face of this stuff if you're suggesting direct democracy. You just let the mob control. But yeah, I was actually pretty impressed and stoked about that event. I don't normally feel that way at those.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, they're gearing up for war. There might be something to it. And I think my take on it is I hang out with a lot of people in the political sphere. I hate politics probably more than anything. And I hate politicians more than anything. And, I would never welcome one into my home. And I don't, believe in voting, but I feel like, those circles are kind of important to walk in because those are the people that, could potentially, be good connections in what's coming in the future. And it's why I do it. That's the way I justify it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And people that we would want to bring into the Bitcoin sphere. I mean, I look at the meetup in Sierra Vista a similar way. That's just absolutely smack dab in the heart of the military industrial complex. And I'm super pumped about that meetup and like being able to, hopefully act because a lot of people just turn 18 and want to go to college for free. They're not, it's the people pulling the strings that we need to have Nuremberg trials for, and yeah. So anyway, so to have that meetup right there in the heart of the defense, military industrial complex, and hopefully be able to like access and bring over as many of them as possible.
Lurk's asking if either of us hit Kaiser. I did. It was a blast.
Yeah.
It was really, really exciting. And it felt like a revolution. It's definitely, if he's ever out your way, definitely go there. But it felt like something that's leading to something big, getting people riled up and like putting into perspective of what this is. Like he ripped like $500, like hit $20 bills and was just shredding them on stage. And I thought that was pretty dope. But I mean, to get the Bitcoiners together, and this is why I am so adamant about the importance of meetups in a time like this. Like they want us to be demoralized and they want us to be like out on our own. And when you get together with people it and like kind of talk with each other, compare notes, and agree together that this is complete and utter bullshit. We're not going to stand for it. I think that's incredibly powerful. But yeah, there were some pretty solid people there. Dredd was there. Got to meet him for the first time. Alex Svetsky was there. It's cool to meet him in person. Gosla was there. It's cool meeting her. We had a bunch of people from the Phoenix meetup there, which is really solid. Those guys are, hardcore badasses. But yeah, I had a blast.
Awesome. Yeah, I was already on my way to Texas Thursday, so I was not able to go, unfortunately. But I love Max Kaiser. That would be so cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a pretty useful person in the space, getting the message out there.
His rant about Janet Yellen being a financial terrorist, like Mario Draghi's a financial terrorist. I love that. It's one of my favorite things.
I should get that as a sound clip. I need to update my Max Kaiser clips. Yeah. I mean, they all are financial terrorists. Like, I think that's it. Here's the game that we can play with them is they can call us terrorists and we can point the finger back at them and call them terrorists. Yeah. We can play this.
Especially build our own economic power so that we can also just ignore them. I'm gonna figure out how to turn this light on real quick.
Oh, no worries.
I'm still listening.
Here's something I'm debating about doing. I'm pretty, close to, pulling the trigger on this one, but I'm heavily considering crowdsourcing through the Arizona meetup scene billboard campaign to put up billboards that say something like dump your slave money or fight inflation, something like really provocative. With Bitcoin.
Print guns, buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. You're not a slave, buy Bitcoin. Taxation is theft, buy Bitcoin. Inflation is theft. Something like that. Something that's going to be like really like in your face and just have it up there. I think like if enough people see it, I've been seeing billboards around the country, over the past, year or so that are pretty solid. And I think doing something like that as the local community would be really fun and maybe even powerful. So.
And to not waste time putting it in yuppie areas like Scottsdale, because those people they're already benefiting from the current system. They're like the least likely to, they're all watching CNN with a vaccine in their arm. But normal people are, I think, much more open to it.
Yeah.
AK-47 says they have billboards in Austin about Bitcoin.
It's okay to buy Bitcoin. Yeah, I think a lot of people are waiting for like permission to do things. It's just like something that's conditioned in people's minds is like you need permission to. So that would be a funny one. But I want it to be really like provocative and like to put it into people's minds that there's this idea that I mean, even something like the price of house and Bitcoin in 2016 and then in 2021 and then the price in dollars. I think that would be a really, really solid one. Oh, we got Gosla. I haven't been watching the spaces. What's up, Gosla?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. You got anything for us tonight?
I am like trying to get myself to watch the rest of that podcast. I can't stand listening to myself. So how do you do it? How do you review your stuff?
I like hated it for like probably the first 2 months, and then just got used to editing it.
It was super fun though.
Maybe I'm just a narcissist and I enjoy listening to myself.
Do you put a mirror? Do you do it in front of a mirror? That would be the best.
Keep it on loop throughout your house for the day.
Yeah.
I still hate how my voice sounds for sure.
Well, it's actually like kind of fun going through and editing because I get to, really process through a bit more of what I was hearing in the podcast. And it's been really helpful for me, like having that process, because when I came in and started podcasting, I feel like I still don't have the fullest grasp on Bitcoin, but I've definitely, like, in the past year, the being able to ask people questions has been extremely helpful. So I guess that makes it bearable. Maybe but yeah, podcasting is fun.
That was fun. Well, I'm bummed you're not going to BitBlock Boom, right? I know Steve, you're going, right?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm in Texas already.
Yeah, it's gonna be a dope conference. I had to pick and choose what I did this year because all my friends and family decided to get married in the same year, and so
jerk.
Yeah, screw them. Much rather be at a Bitcoin conference. But friends and family are important.
This is true.
Yeah. Well, I got my Portland shirt on for a reason today.
The Trailblazers playing?
No, I don't watch sports ball anymore.
Okay.
No, it's a freaking shit show up there. It's absolutely insane. It's like the Civil War. They're like, they were throwing bombs. There's like Proud Boy rally, and the Antifa tried to like show up and ambush him, and like the Proud Boys are like all geared up, and they have their like LARPing gear to go fight each other. They're like shields and stuff, but like the Proud Boys are just lighting them up with paintballs, and like they're hitting each other with sticks. And then like I think it ended when they started actually shooting guns at each other. But I think that's going to be the norm going forward. It's just so out of control, and I've got grandparents up there that think I need to evacuate. But
I just hope Bitcoiners are smart enough not to, because that's like those kinds of things out in the open in a city downtown. It's like that's playing their game on their terms and just losing miserably, because they're gonna, trivial for them to get you for a felony and throw you in a cage for a long time. And they can get rid of you so easily. So I hope Bitcoiners are smart enough to not, take what feels like emotionally easy or emotionally right. Well, I'm just going to go kick somebody's ass, but to be a lot more strategic about it.
Yeah.
Don says they had 15 reinforced umbrellas as shields. They were throwing mortars at each other when they started throwing sparkler bombs. Yeah, I've mentioned it before. I was up in the Portland area for almost 3 years, and I was up there summer of 2020 when everything went to shit, and it went from a really, really fun, cool place to live with some quirks to literally being on fire for 3 months straight, and continues, obviously.
What's going on?
How are you guys doing today?
What's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, just hanging out. I saw an interesting space title, so I decided to jump in. But I see you guys are actually talking something about something interesting. Sounds like.
Yeah, this is the Toxic Airwaves, where we are doing our best to be toxic Bitcoin maximalists.
Okay. So actually, I don't have any stake in Bitcoin. I'm actually considering moving my Ethereum into Solana due to the gas and all that, because these NFTs, and it's starting to like really show me how unscalable Ethereum is. But
have you considered dumping it all for Bitcoin? Anything else will end in poverty, just FYI.
No, definitely not. My thing is, okay. So my thing,
We're losing you. Your connection's kind of bad. All right. I had to mute him. Oh, he unmuted himself. All right. I saw your connection.
Your connection's pretty bad.
We didn't hear any of that. But yeah, Solana's been getting a lot of attention recently. It's the newest thing. I heard there was a major rug pull on it. Simply Bitcoin was covering that, which is pretty funny.
I just had a cop drive by me, so maybe that has something to do with my connection. I'm not too sure.
Okay. Maybe we can hear you better now.
Pretty weird, actually.
Have you reconsidered dumping it all for Bitcoin, though?
Oh, no.
No? Oh, all right. It's your choice.
No. And I was about to say before I got rugged, before the cop drove by me for some odd reason, I got rugged. I was gonna say that, I mean, you could take this for what you will. This is my belief, but I think Bitcoin was made by the NSA.
No, it was made by an alien intelligence.
Yeah, definitely an interdimensional alien intelligence for sure.
Okay, we'll go with that. So I don't really fully believe in a world fully adopting a Bitcoin. It doesn't necessarily make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, you just haven't studied it enough, which is fine.
Better.
No, I don't think Ethereum's better. After dealing with a lot of these gas wars with NFTs, you're essentially paying more gas than you are for the product you're trying to buy and flip for profit. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So there's more scalable utility coins other than Ethereum.
Well, they have to scale.
Solana doesn't make sense. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
Let's
none
go.
of these make sense unless you want to go to a casino. Like, you're honestly better off going and like putting all your money on black at the roulette table.
The reason why I would choose Solana over Ethereum is just for the fees.
Fuck Solana and Ethereum.
That's the only reason
Fuck
why.
Solana and Ethereum. Nobody cares about either of those. What do they offer? Why are they important?
Smart contracts and the ability.
Smart
Well, what do
contracts.
you
That's
think?
the most generic bullshit buzzword.
Okay, but what do you think?
I think that they're fucking worthless.
No, I mean, like, what coin do you think is better?
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Yep. Bitcoin only. It's only Bitcoin.
Okay. Okay. Well,
I already gave you the best investment advice of the century.
no, I know, and I know it's space I joined, so I know.
Izzo,
This is a Bitcoin
Izzo,
back
are you a vaccine fan?
Nope.
Do you support the state?
I do not support my state. No, I don't.
Then why do you like Ethereum or Solana?
I don't like Ethereum more than Solana. I never said that.
Or Solana or whichever one.
Actually,
Or
I converted some of my Ethereum into Solana due to the gas fees Ethereum has. So I don't know.
Jesus Christ, shut up.
I don't know if you buy NFTs or anything like that, but I've started to realize how unscalable Ethereum is.
All of it's bullshit.
But you're saying that in a Bitcoin max perspective. So a storage
You use buzzwords.
Yeah.
It's
You
no,
speak
Name
it's
it. Name it.
it's an actuality, dude. Like it's the smart contracts used by Ethereum and the gas fees.
Jesus
It's all
Christ.
real, dude. If you don't understand these basic concepts in crypto, then I'm sorry, bro. Like,
Dude,
So I'm gonna remove you.
if you're trolling, you're really good at trolling, honestly.
So I'm gonna remove you from the speakers, and we're gonna respond. So, I mean, this whole idea of like gas fees, first and foremost, like you're looking for the cheaper one. First and foremost, the blockchain is not going to be scalable on a first layer. It's just not. And that's the approach that Bitcoin has taken with the Lightning Network. And we have these, transactions for free. And like my favorite analogy for shitcoins is it's like the house is on fire. We need to get out of the house. And the shitcoiners are in the kitchen trying to remodel the kitchen. They're trying to debate on how the sink is made. So that's, in regards to the NFTs and, bullshit like that doesn't matter. And the Bitcoiners are trying to, solve a real issue, which is the issue that our money is broken and it's destroying our societies and enslaving the population to the state. And, all of this nonsense is just so so silly. So that's my take on it. You can play these games with these, but ultimately this guy was probably just trying to make some fiat gains and get some more broken money.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, it's just a very, very low understanding of what actually is happening and what's going on. And I don't know, it's like that whole point, which we hear a lot of, oh, well, that's, you're a Bitcoin maxi. Of course you would say that. And my response, what I was going to ask him is like, well, how about you name me another group with a higher batting average on making predictions that line up with reality and being right about what's happening? Because I don't know of what is it the ETH people? No chance. Is there anybody, academic economists, politicians, doctors? No, there's not. I don't know of another group that's even close. I mean, just being on, like how many people have said, being on Bitcoin Twitter is like, like you just like know things that no one else knows. Like my whole family was stocked up on meat a month before the supply shortage because it was obvious to everyone paying attention that was coming, and no one else was. We didn't know a single other person who like was aware of what was going to happen. All ran out of meat, or weren't stocked up or anything, and that's just a simple example, but it happens 1,000 times over. You start to think, I've mentioned it on here before. That was my initial, understanding of Bitcoin mostly came from losing arguments on Twitter. Like I had this idea in my head that, Bitcoin and Ethereum were this techno-utopian nonsense. And so I went onto Twitter to make that point and just kept getting owned over and over again, told I was a retard and told I was a moron. And I was like, and then it's like, if you evaluate it logically, it's right. And I don't know, like it makes sense. And it's like, oh yeah, no, I was wrong. I was wrong about this one. I was wrong about this. And, this is obviously, what lines up with reality. Oh, that's a good point, Larry.
Yeah.
Now NFTs are partnered with Visa and they're going mainstream. Yeah. Visa spent 150 grand on a Visa. I don't know what, there was something special about the NFT, but Visa spent 150 grand on one of them.
There's something special about the JPEG.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it, Zorn.
This is what I'm talking about is like the whole idea of NFT is just like ridiculous speculation to like Dogecoin wasn't enough. So they had to go put these like stupid JPEGs to go trade on the blockchain, to try and speculate even more on something completely more worthless. And it's, it's just, it's the results of a broken monetary system. This is why people are doing this bullshit.
They're literally selling NFTs that are just JPEGs of rocks. Like they look like they're drawn in different shades of black and gray marker on their rocks.
Yeah.
300 grand.
That's nuts.
This is Don.
Absolutely pathetic.
This is Don Spaces, by the way. Steve.
Yeah. Nice.
It's good to have you in here. First time.
Yeah, first time. That guy was grinding my gears. I couldn't take anymore.
That's it. We knew we wanted to have fun with him for a little bit, but yeah, I couldn't let it go too terribly long because it's like, okay, you have no idea what you're talking about. We'll have a little fun and then let's give him the boot.
It was a typical buzzword bullshit spew.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny.
Pathetic.
Vitalik had a pretty good moment this past week on CNBC. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I did not.
So he was saying,
I did not.
He was saying something along the lines of smart contracts that will happen on Bitcoin. So I guess Jack Dorsey's trying to do something with DeFi on Bitcoin, and I haven't followed it just because that's not really interesting to me. But Vitalik came out and said that he was concerned about it because essentially whatever Jack Dorsey was going to do was going to be inferior to Ethereum smart contracts. And I thought that was pretty funny. He was like ragging on multi-sig or something like that.
It'll be interesting to see how long it takes for these people to capitulate. Like when, like there'll be a point when the ETH to Bitcoin price is like, 0.01 or 2 or something like that. yeah, it'll just be interesting to see when they give up, I think.
But you're missing the point here, Skeef. It's not going to be ETH. It's going to be Solana.
Okay. or Solana, or Binance Chain, or Thorchain, or
Chainlink. You remember Chainlink? That one came in.
Chainlink.
6 months ago, it was Cardano. We had Gene Simmons' his ass out promoting it.
Yeah, I don't know if Cardano's done yet. I think they're just getting started.
Safe Moon.
Oh yeah, I had a friend call me about Safe Moon. That one's probably like the worst. I mean, the lifespan of these shit coins is just there's a few that have hung on somehow just because of name recognition, I think. I mean, Binance can probably pull all sorts of shady stuff with their coin because they actually have a business model that matters other than just printing money and scamming people. But I mean, their business model is about scamming people. It's just in a different way than just printing money. But yeah. Shit. Bitcoin makes Visa obsolete. Yeah. Yeah. So it makes sense that they would be messing around with NFTs and trying to, push people towards something that doesn't matter, protects their business model. Yeah, I guess.
And I think there's a big argument to be made that it's like a product of the end of the fiat system, like the end of an empire. I mean, there's just so much money floating around, and people are so insane that this nonsense is there's so much easy free money that it's flowing into pixelated rocks and bullshit.
Well, I mean, the American HODL lines this out pretty well. I don't know what everybody's opinion is. I don't care, but he talks about like the broken money is creating an attitude of nihilism. If you're being priced out of buying a home and your money is devaluing, everything's getting more expensive around you, and it instills this sense of like hopelessness looking forward to the future. It's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll YOLO into Dogecoin, to try and make a quick buck. That's it. They program behavior through the way that they institute monetary policy. And they talk about this as like the idea of punishing savers. They don't want people saving money. They want them to go out and spend it on stupid bullshit at Walmart. And that's why
and to be dependent on.
Yeah. To be dependent on just big corporations and government handouts and,
It kills time preference too. It shortens the time preference so that nobody can think long enough to actually save up and accomplish or reach a goal that they have set for themselves without spinning on the hamster wheel.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between a Bitcoiner and a shitcoiner is that a Bitcoiner has a 5 and a 10-year plan. Like they're thinking ahead in the future, and the shitcoiner maybe has a 30-day plan. Like the time preference is a huge thing.
Yeah, you always every time they mention numbers, it's never a longer period. Like in a very rare scenario, it's a year, but it's generally 6 months or less. Like they're posting year-to-date charts 3 weeks into January, and it's like bullshit like that. Just like whatever recent short time period sells whatever narrative they've got going. But yeah, what you brought up for American HODL, I definitely agree with that. I think he has a lot of really, really good stuff to say on that, because obviously a smart guy and has thought through a lot of that kind of stuff. And yeah, he's always been very good to me. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I mean, this is the topic I'm going to be talking about in Omaha, is about time preference and how money influences that. Because I think that was my pill moment, was when I read that in the Bitcoin Standard. That idea of what time preference was and how money was influenced by it, because I was walking around, I was working and supervising people that were 2 or 3 times my age that didn't have any sort of retirement savings, and it blew my mind. And I couldn't figure it out of like, why am I in a position of authority over somebody, as like a 20-year-old kid? And yeah.
Yeah, I had a job. I don't want to dox too much, but basically I had a job right out of college where like I was working directly like with the finances of people with insane incomes, like, 800K, multi-million, over $1 million per year, like people that make a ton of money. And yeah, was just basically involved with kind of, anyway, with their finances, like knew how much money they all made and was responsible. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much. Basically that, but they were, so many of them, almost all of them were living paycheck to paycheck. These are people that make many, many multiples of what I make, and, have 2 or 3 vacation homes. One guy bought a brand new F-350 with every single option, top of the line, everything, every 18 months. Like another guy, they're buying a new sports car every 2 years. And then it's like houses and, multiple ex-wives and, alimony for this and child. I mean, their internal life is just an absolute fucking train wreck. And, it's like, if somebody can make $1 million a year and have a lower net worth than, a fast food supervisor who's good with their money. And it's nuts. And it's like, those are the fiat, those are the people that they're going to hit a wall, and it's going to be rough when the transition to Bitcoin really gets going.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. I mean, my best friend just graduated PA school, and so he's going to the medical field, and he's going to be making a good amount of money. And so I've been, orange pilling him for a couple of years now, and he's slowly coming around to it. We've had some pretty cool conversations, but they would have investment people go in and talk to these people in the medical field and just spew complete bullshit, like how their fund will perform 12% a year, and line them out on these plans of you need to put like a very small amount of money into it, and then you'll be successful in retirement. And he raised his hand and asked, is like, how do you guys plan to compete with inflation and where it's at right now? 12, or I forget what the number was. I mean, if you look at the Chapwood Index, which is a great tool, prior to I don't know if he's updated it. He had some issues with it, but prior to 2020, a lot of American cities, the increased cost of living was percent here, or in most of California was New York. In Tucson, it was like something like 2%. If you're making percent a year, your retirement savings, like inflation the slightest, like not building wealth, and people just bullshit, and they don't have any reason not to think for the most part. Just garbage.
Yeah, and the rate of inflation that matters for those people is asset price inflation. I mean, because that's, if somebody's wealthy, that's the main thing they care about is assets, and so their rate of inflation is minimum 20%, probably a lot higher.
Yeah, Bitcoin is just like like you said earlier, it's just like the easiest trade, the best trade in human history. It's just such a no-brainer at this point. We need to build a new chart, the ex-wives to Bitcoin ratio, or how many ex-wives can one Bitcoin buy you?
Today, I think it's probably multiple Bitcoin per ex-wife, but yeah, that'd be what would that be like? Lifetime alimony payments. I'm trying to think, obviously the initial settlement. Well, that definitely plays into our sponsor, Dirtbags Bar.
That was my first thought when you mentioned multiple ex-wives. I was thinking they probably spend a lot of time at Dirtbags.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best place in Southern Arizona.
Was it Don?
Yeah, I think I may have met my future ex-wife at Dirtbags.
Oh yeah,
I was there.
I hear about it.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. Future ex-wife, that's hell of a title.
We'd be interested in any parts of this beautiful love story that you're interested in sharing.
I don't know if it was much of a love story. It was more of like a broom closet fantasy.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Was it a nice broom closet?
Acceptable.
All right, good deal.
There was this bar. It unfortunately shut down in Tucson. It was called the Meat Rack. That was kind of legendary, and it was famous because the owner referred to himself as God and would give you like lifetime discounts on drinks if you got his face branded on your body, which a lot of people did. And there was all sorts of other weird things about it, but that would have been a great sponsor if they didn't close down.
Tucson, I'm surprised you haven't reached out to that Kratom sponsor.
The Kratom sponsor?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like I was saying earlier, like the sponsor would have to be really specific. There's a lot of podcasts that I think are good quality that kind of get limited, like the whole Gas Network crew, like Michael Malice, I like Dave Smith, but they're, you know, have these stupid sponsors that are just so irritating. You know, every time they bring up like
nobody wants to hear about sheath underwear.
Yeah, sheath underwear, like that quick looking thing, like, you know, that'd be like bad products or whatever. I just feel like, I don't know, if it'd be, there's very few companies that I would, you know, be interested in that. I like the value for value model, you know, with Sphinx Chat, stuff like that. Merch site, working on a merch site, I think that's a much better model.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, how many freaking sponsorships? I grew up watching TV, and like every time, like my girlfriend will play Hulu. Sometimes she used to, we fixed the problem where she doesn't have to watch ads on it anymore. But watching ads it just hurts. It just absolutely hurts to see that bullshit. Just them shilling you all these stupid things that don't matter. Oh,
oh yeah, OpenNode and Substack's basically using OpenNode to power Bitcoin payments. And if I've done some work with the OpenNode API, they make it very, very easy to do on-chain and Lightning withdrawals. And they actually don't charge for Lightning withdrawals, which is interesting. They just have I think it's like a 0.5% fee for on-chain, I believe, is my understanding.
Interesting. Yeah, OpenNode's definitely like a better option than a BitPay. BitPay is bullshit. Yeah. It's like PayPal, but I think like at the end of the day, you know, I'm pretty staunchly rooted to BTC Pay server above all else. It's super inconvenient comparatively to OpenNode. I think that'll change. But I think what it comes down to is important, you know, and the same idea is like we need to be sovereign as individuals. I think businesses need to be sovereign from payment processors because of what's coming down the line. And unfortunately, OpenNode is, they're probably really solid people working there. I don't know any of them, but it's a single point of failure that could really impact you if you're too reliant on them. But yeah, the biggest complaint I've heard from business owners is managing Lightning channels.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm at BitBlock Boom on Friday. There, if anyone's interested, there's a like intro to contributing to BTC Pay server. I think it's at 10 a.m. I don't know if that's right or not, but I'm definitely going to that. So check it out if you're interested.
Yeah. Who's hosting that? Rockstar Dev and
Rockstar Dev, and then Britt Kelly.
Britt Kelly. Yeah. Both solid.
Who she, by the way, is an awesome Twitter follow. Definitely. She's like super, super, super based on all this like vaccine, COVID, NWO type stuff.
Yeah. I like Substack a lot. Just kind of going off of that again, because they're really pissing off the New York Times and other mainstream publications. Glenn Greenwald's on there. He's a pretty solid journalist. But yeah, that's actually kind of cool news. I like that.
I was going to say on the, you're talking about commercials earlier. It reminded me one time when my older son was probably 3.5 or 4. We were over at grandparents' house. TV was playing in the living room. He's watching a show, and the commercials come on, and he said, "Who changed the channel?" And like, "What? No, it's just commercials playing." And he said, "No, put it back. I want to watch the show." And his grandpa was like, "No, the commercials are playing. You know, once they're done, the show will come back on." He's like, I don't want to watch this. Could you put it on the show?" And he was like saying, "Please." He's super polite. And we realized he'd never seen commercials before. Like, he didn't know. He was totally unaware of the concept of commercials. He's just like, "Why? I was just watching my show and now fucking toothpaste. Like, what is this nonsense?" I mean, he wasn't dropping F-bombs when he was 3.5, but yeah, I don't know. It just cracked me up. And so I always thought that's a hilarious story.
Yeah, I mean, you can get around most of it today if you use like ad block on your browser.
Yeah.
I think you could install Pi. I haven't done this, but you can install something called Pi-hole to block all ads on your network. So like if you had like a smart, if you had like a Roku or like a Apple TV or something, I think it would block ads, which would be pretty.
Oh, wow. Dope. Does that work on like YouTube too? Or because I pay for YouTube Premium just because I hate ads so much.
Dude, yeah,
I can't stand watching them.
No, yeah, get rid of that shit. You can for YouTube, you can just run the ad block on your browser. I'm not sure what browser you use, but you can put like uBlock, Origin. I don't use Firefox. I'm using one called Brave, which, you know, is a shitcoin one, but it's just easy. But you can block it that way. And then I don't know for your phone, but I mean, for your phone, it's easy. Just get off of iOS and then you can install an app called like NewPipe, which is just like YouTube without ads and without the trackers and bullshit. And so I think that's the solution for YouTube. Yeah. I think we just need to get away from it. I mean, it's funny. Have you looked into Tip&Me at all?
A little bit. I've like sent people money on Lightning over it a little bit.
Yeah, so like Brave had this interesting business model that they came out with that, I mean, they launched a shitcoin to fund themselves, you know, so unregistered security at its finest. But they had this interesting, you know, concept of like building this browser that allows you to easily be able to like tip and contribute to people and then to earn money on ads that you can choose because they had ad block built into it. And it seems like Tip&Me could essentially be something similar to that, where you can just tip content creators that, yeah, lurk a basic attention token. I was arguing with some people on the Brave Reddit about basic attention token. I told them it was a shit coin, and they were telling me, you know, they're gonna laugh. They're be sitting on their asses retired on it, and it's hilarious. It's performed like garbage too, I'm pretty sure, because, you know, it's trying to accomplish something that Bitcoin already has taken over for. I mean, like you look at Sphinx chat, and I don't give me shit for it. I haven't looked into it too much, but it sounds like Impervious AI is, you know, trying to do something, you know, similar, and it's all going to be on Bitcoin. It's going to be, you know, giving people money that they actually want. Yeah, that comment that I had calling basic attention token on Reddit got me like 30 downvotes, which is pretty funny.
There was a Saturday, there was a guy, Anthony Ronning, he works at Impervious, did a presentation on just like the different stuff that they're working on. And it looks like the ways that they can apply Lightning tokens, or I mean, not Lightning token, like just the Lightning network to like automating payments for stuff, like paying for API calls, paying for like socket connections between websites, like paying, like there's a whole I don't know. I don't know if this was the point he was trying to make, but like one thing I took away from it is that there's whole new businesses that are going to exist that were never possible before because you could never charge for things like this. And it's just going to be, yeah, it's going to be super interesting.
Technology. It's funny, like when people bring up this idea of like automation, getting rid of jobs. It's like we've just been through this so many times in human history of it displaces jobs in the short term, but you know, ultimately it springs up and creates new jobs that, you know, we couldn't even fathom. Like who would have thought that anybody would have a podcast and what that was like during the midst of the Industrial Revolution, where all these farmers were getting displaced and having to move into the cities to work in shop, you know, shops building like machines or clothes or stuff like that. So it's interesting to think about. The Bitcoin economy is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
Pay for movies by the second.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's, the only stuff I listen to outside of the Sphinx app is podcasts that are not on Sphinx app. Like I've moved everything onto Sphinx app, Sphinx that's available. And I like it.
Yeah, Sphinx is the shit. Yeah, the pay for movies by second or minute or, you know, whatever is really, really an interesting thing because so I'm a huge Star Wars junkie. Big Star Wars junkie. And every once in a while they'll try and come out with this fan film and Lucasfilm will come in at them with so many like restrictions and, you know, go after them and limit what they can really do. And I think for individual content creators, you know, funding like that, crowdfunding like that would be incredible, you know, because Lucasfilm would go out and like, you know, a big part of it is like they have limited platforms that they can put it up on, you know, and they have their identities tied to it. If you have people making these films with, you know, anonymously or anonymously, and then they get to get paid with money that the payment processors can't shut down. They can host it on a site that can't get censored. You know, it brings competition to the film industry that isn't there. And we don't have Lucasfilm putting out the shitty sequels and, you know, other garbage. And I think that's, you know, kind of a dope idea. I get stoked on that.
I love that. I haven't thought about that angle very much. That definitely sounds good. I like that. Lurk says Phantom Menace is the best Star Wars. I will plead ignorance. I'm not into Star Wars too much.
Yeah, I'm a big prequels guy because I grew up on those. Seeing them in the movie theaters, I think it's different. And I definitely enjoyed the originals quite a bit. I don't hate the Phantom Menace like everybody else does. I think Attack of the Clones is kind of meh, but I still like it. But I can watch them all 100 times. I just hate the sequels. They're just so shitty. I've probably only watched them through like 5 times, which is very few for me.
Jordan says Dune is the best Star Wars.
They were going to make a Dune movie. I don't know if they made it yet.
I think they still are.
It looked pretty good. Yeah. So how stoned are you, Skeef?
Not too bad.
Are you
warming up.
level yet?
What's that?
Hunter Biden level yet?
No, not Hunter Biden level. Not forgetting my computer at a repair shop with videos of me smoking crack on it level.
This is an interesting point from Lurk. Darth Maul was the only character to ever kill Liam Neeson on camera. That's an interesting point. So should we wrap up with this theory that Satoshi was an alien or alien intelligence?
Oh, yeah. There's I'll tweet out an article that has some good information. But my basic elevator pitch for it would be there's too much of it that's too perfect, like with how it worked out, to be even accounted for by survivorship bias. I mean, just it's like, oh, it survived, so that's what we read into it too much. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm 100% sure, but that's definitely my best guess for that. And a lot of it comes from like something, Tucson, you and I have talked about, this Stephen Greer guy and kind of his perspective on, what is alien intelligence, what's our relationship to them. And, he has a couple of video shows on Amazon Prime, but the TLDR is that, they are, basically that they are extremely positive entities, that if they were going to harm us, we would have been done, many thousands of years ago. There would have, it'd be a competition between a horse and an ant. I mean, it's nothing. And so like he has, and you can watch the video, but he has all these reasons to think that they are like genuinely interested in like having a productive relationship and promoting like our best interest, and has all these crazy stories about, potentially ways that nuclear missiles were stopped from launching and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it seems plausible, or at least something worth considering, that those entities have just evolved past the idea of scarcity and commerce and things like that, and have, we're able to develop Bitcoin or something, we're able to develop Bitcoin and, have it start here as a way to move us in that kind of direction of like ending all this like tyranny and slavery that we live under. And yeah, I don't know, be part of it, if that makes any sense.
That's pretty interesting to get into. I like Stephen Greer. I'm skeptical of everybody. I think I say this. I'm skeptical of everybody in the alien space because there's just so many spooks there. But he's got this weird thing that I guess they've done in different parts of Arizona, like Oracle, which is just north of Tucson, where they get a group of people and they do it, specialized meditation together to try and like make contact with an alien. And yeah, I'm gonna try it. I think it's gonna be a good time. But
yeah, but look up Unacknowledged, and then what is it? Something of the Fifth Kind. This is the other one that's on Encounters of the Fifth Kind. That's what it is.
So
it's worth checking out.
There's 5 different types of encounters. I think the first one is seeing a UFO. The second one, seeing a UFO land. The third one is like going on a UFO ship. I don't know what the fourth one. I might have messed it all up. But the fifth one is human initiated contact with an extraterrestrial. It's a pretty interesting movie. Yeah. I like the idea that Bitcoin was created by the aliens. Oh yeah, Dark Journalist. That's one I've been shilling to. That is a fun one.
You had mentioned that to me. I have not listened to it yet, but I will. That sounds perfect.
His last one kind of dry.
Theories of the Third Kind is one that I like. Higher Side Chats with Grant Parlewood is a good one. Sam Tripoli is just fun as hell. He's got one called Tinfoil Hat Podcast, and he's primarily a comedian, so that one's like particularly good because he's super into conspiracies, but he's also just hilarious.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to at the end of the day is like a lot of this stuff, people tend to have a strong reaction at the suggestion of a UFO, and a lot of people don't like to admit that we just don't know everything and that we're very limited in our knowledge. And this is the problem with like scientism that's taking over the world, and like them trying to mandate everybody get the vax and lock down and do all these crazy totalitarian draconian measures. Is like, these people don't know jack shit about anything. And so I think it's important to keep an open mind, but not necessarily be like, this is a conclusive answer to something because we want to understand it. And I think like there's a really, really good book called Hunt for Skinwalker, or something about Skinwalker Ranch. But if you look up George Knapp, his name will be tied to the book. and they had a team of scientists that went to Skinwalker Ranch, and I probably shouldn't say that word because I live like right next to an Indian reservation, but they went to this ranch and were trying to document all of this crazy phenomenon, you know, with lights and UFOs and giant wolves and, you know, cattle mutilations. And they were there for like, you know, a year or two and weren't able to really deduct anything concrete other than they were seeing weird stuff that they couldn't explain. And I think that's just a really good perspective on how limited our knowledge is. And I think that's a good place to admit.
Yeah. And one thing, if you want a good intro to Skinwalker Ranch, that Theories of the Third Kind podcast that I mentioned, they had a good episode. Like those, they're all just, you know, normal people, but they do good research and have good links and things like that. So it's worth checking out if you're interested.
Yeah, and you get a lot of information on that one in a short bit too. It's not like a long. Annie Jacobson, yeah. Steve turned me on to her.
Yeah, she's great. All 5 of her books are fantastic.
Yeah, I think like the Roswell incident, I totally believe her theory on it, that it was a Soviet ship that was captured from the Nazis that they were like trying to screw with the US with.
Yeah.
It's a pretty dark story.
I did not see that, Lurk. Lurk said, you guys see Strike throwing a sneak peek about pay me in Bitcoin today. I missed that. I'm on the wait list for that. I love it. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I think I'm on the wait list too. It's just going to be huge. Big fan of Strike. Big fan of Jack Mallers. They just launched 2 countries in Africa, which I thought was pretty dope.
Nice.
I forgot which ones they were. I think Nigeria was one of them, and I forgot what the other one was.
I think Ghana was the other one.
Ghana. Be nice if they got into Ethiopia so Charles Hoskinson could go away. Hate that guy. Such a tool. But yeah. You got
Nothing else for me.
any shout outs?
Just Dirtbag Bar and best place to meet your future ex-wife in Southern Arizona.
We had a great chat, great spaces. Don, thank you for joining us in the spaces.
And some very exciting guests. Some very exciting guests coming up on the Tucson Bitcoin podcast too.
Oh yeah, I'm super stoked on my guest coming up. We're gonna get into some anarchism hard. I was tweeting. I want to get. I think one of my dream podcasts. I probably wouldn't host it. By having Michael Malice, Alex Svetsky, and Eric Kaysen sit down and have a conversation, that would be amazing. Yeah, shout out to Sedona. Got some sick crystals up there, some vortexes. I do have one thing. If there's anybody near Nebraska, I am speaking in Omaha on September 10th. I'm pretty stoked on that.
20th anniversary, day before.
20th anniversary
of 9/11, 9/11/01.
Oh yeah. Well,
20th anniversary of Rumsfeld's press conference about losing $2.3 trillion, which is totally unrelated.
Dude, that's like a whole nother wormhole to get down.
Yeah. So we don't have time for that today.
Well, just 1 second. I got to mention it. DHS, did you see that they put out potential terror threats? So it's people so we're terrorists, according to them.
Yeah. People that say normie and cuck and based.
No, that was a different one.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they said specifically, this is really funny because the chair of the Libertarian Party pulled it up on the TV behind her when she was giving her speech about anti-vax, but it's people that are anti-vax, anti-lockdown, believe in lack of election integrity, and then the third one was religious holidays and the anniversary of 9/11. So I'm wondering if they're calling that they're going to do something on 9/11 as a result of that.
I sure hope not.
Yeah. The money today is just absolutely absurd. I think the deficit today is like what Obama's budget was in like 2016, 2015. That's what Michael Malice said. But yeah, solid rip.
We'll see ya. Have a good one.
How do I turn this live off?